Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the book of Job. Today we'll be looking at Job's chapters 17 and 18, and these are pretty short chapters, and there's not really a whole lot that we're going to get into today, so this is going to be a pretty short video. And when I say that, I really mean it's going to be short, like probably under 5 minutes. Usually, if a preacher or pastor tells you that they're almost done or they've got a quick sermon for you, typically they're not being 100% honest. But here, we don't have that much that we're going to get too deep into because it's pretty easy to understand, I think. So do make sure you read it. It's just Job chapter 17 and 18. But I am going to highlight a couple things just to make sure that we're all following along with what's going on. So here we'll hear some more from Job himself, and then we'll hear again from his friend Bildad. So in chapter 17, Job fell into further despair as part of a pattern that we've seen before, okay? He had desperate hope that God would intervene and end his grief, and then the realization kind of set in that it wasn't going to happen for him like that, and it just kind of hit him, and that's what we see here in chapter 17. And Job actually felt that he had nothing to look forward to but the relief of a graveyard, as he says in verse 1. He had nothing to look forward to but the end of his suffering, which would come in his death. He challenged his friends to try again, but was convinced that there was not a wise man among them, as we see in verse 10. And then in verse 15, we see that Job has reached a point where he has lost all hope. So Job is challenging his friends still because his friends, his know-it-all friends, think they know exactly what's going on. And Job's like, okay, well, if you know what's going on, tell me. Tell me what I've done wrong. Tell me what I need to do. And he knows that they won't be able to tell him anything useful, which brings us to Bildad's speech right there in chapter 18. Bildad basically picks up where Eliphaz left off, and he's telling Job basically, like, shut up, dude. Like, what do you expect? Do you expect the world to stop just because you're moaning about your situation? That's not the way it's going to work. And he then accuses Job for being wicked again in verses 5 to 21. And according to Bildad, he says, the way that you spot a wicked sinner is that his strength is despised. You see that in verse 12, that parts of his skin are eaten away. Verse 13, that he's lost everything. And that's in verse 15. And that he had no children or no survivor or no heir to leave behind. That's what he says in verse 19. And we know that all of these things have happened to Job, okay? His strength is gone. We see this in the way that he's talking, the way that he's talking to God, and he's talking to his friends. Parts of his skin are eaten away. We saw that God allowed the devil to hurt Job. He just couldn't kill him. So he allowed these things, his skin to be messed up. He's lost everything. We saw that was the first thing that happened. Everything was taken away from Job, and his children, the last one, we know that they were taken away also at the very beginning of this story. So Bildad obviously was talking directly to Job. He's saying all of these things that have happened to you, they're all signs of wickedness. They're all signs of unfaithfulness to the Lord. And Job has gone through all of these things. So obviously that Bildad is still assuming that Job has faced them because of something he's done wrong, because of his own wickedness. And even though we know that's not the case, Bildad doesn't know the full story, as is the case with his other friends. And they're accusing him of something that we know he hasn't done, but they have no way of knowing. So that's all for today. As I said, it was going to be short, and it was. So I'll see you tomorrow back here in the book of Isaiah.